Hi everyone, Simon Chappell here. I'm the Quit Alcohol Coach, and I'm here to help you smash your sobriety. I wanted to talk today about how to stop alcohol cravings in their tracks. I'm going to give you a tactic that worked for me and it's worked for many, many people who I coach when it comes to quitting drinking. Now, those cravings can feel really, really hard. I know for me that when I first quit, I was having thoughts about alcohol and quitting drinking probably every few minutes. They felt like waves coming into the shore, smashing into me, and then going back out again before another wave would come in and hit me hard again. It was a really tough time. And those cravings were something that I had to learn how to deal with. What I want you to think about is how you can take a moment to pause. When a craving comes up, make it feel like a fire alarm is going off inside your head. And that fire alarm is your opportunity just to pause for a moment and make a choice, to make a decision, because we forget often that we've got the choice in this. We've actually got the power. I know it can feel like alcohol holds the power, but actually it's us who've got the power. And there's so many stages on this journey where we can stop, pause, and make that choice. And I wanted to talk to you. It's a little bit of an analogy, maybe a cliche, but the way to stop alcohol cravings in their track is to think a little bit like a subway journey, or in the UK here, we call them underground trains. And think of that line, that train line. And I want you to think about that as if the first stop on the line, the place where you're stood on the platform, is the start. That's the thought that you're having right now. We'll talk about the thought in a moment. And the final destination on this train track is the place where the alcohol enters you. It enters your body, goes through your mouth, onto your lips. And I'm just going to talk you through that because probably at the moment you're thinking, what the hell is he going on about trains and cravings, right? Yeah, I know. So let me just explain how it works. And I believe me, once you've heard this, you will not be able to unlearn it. You'll be thinking about it next time you have a craving. And especially when you start to go through the motions after you've had a thought of going to get the alcohol, opening the bottle, pouring the drink, taking the drink. This will be in your mind. And I've had many, many people who've used this tactic, and they often send me a message and say, I got to the third stop on the train line, and actually that was where I paused and that was where I stopped, and I actually didn't take a drink. So this can stop your cravings in their tracks. So be open-minded to it, hear me out, and tell me, comment below if this works for you, or share a comment on the Be Sober Facebook group. And if you find that the stuff I share in my videos is helping you, I post at least 2 new quit drinking videos here on my YouTube channel every week. I would love for you to subscribe and become part of the community here. That means a lot to me. So here we go. This is the tactic that I'm going to share with you that worked for me and it's worked for so many other people. What I want you to do is, when you have a strong craving, first of all, try and sit with the craving. Try not to react emotionally. Try not to get washed away with it, and don't make a decision immediately. Now, we have around 100,000 thoughts pass through our minds every day. Often people who are highly intelligent and articulate, we have busy brains. And I know a lot of you guys are exactly that. You know, you work demanding jobs, you are highly intelligent, fully functioning people. You've just got some issues going on with alcohol right now, and we tend to have a lot of thoughts. Yeah, we can have things going through our mind all the time, and it's like a busy train station, a busy subway or underground station. And that's what I want you to get in your head with this analogy. So consider yourself stood on the platform. All of these trains whizzing past right now, they're your thoughts. I like to call them transient thoughts because so many of those thoughts we just do not act on. They're just not important. We might think about something like, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? Or, I wonder if my friend bought those new clothes he was talking about. Or, silly things that just come to mind and they pass like a train rushing past the front of the platform. And these trains, they fly past 100,000 of these trains every day. And they don't really stand out much. The odd one might stand out more than the others. But see those trains as a kind of grey colour, a bit like this shirt that I'm wearing. They just don't really catch your attention. What am I going to have for dinner later? And those kind of thoughts, they just come, they just go. They don't cause discomfort. You don't kind of jump up and pay huge attention to them. You just allow them to pass you by. Then a train comes into the station, and this thing is brightly coloured. It's making so much more noise than all the other trains. You can't not notice this train. It really, really stands out. And this train is that craving. It's that thought about alcohol. It's the thought that alcohol is going to, in some way, provide you with a relief, a benefit, or there's some good outcome at the other side of alcohol. Now, we know, particularly when we've not had a drink, that actually that's not true. And that belief that there is some good at the end of that journey is a limiting belief. It's a belief that holds you back. But for some reason, we still want to get on that train, right? So first of all, you're stood on the platform. The noisy train has come in. Now, sometimes this noisy train, which stops at the platform rather than just rushes past, for some reason, it could hang around for a long time. For me, those cravings and uncomfortable thoughts, they would either come and go quickly, or I would have them for quite long periods of time, maybe an hour or sometimes longer than that. Sometimes I would go to bed still having a craving and wake up the next day and then it had gone. Then the train had left the station. But as I got further and further into my alcohol-free journey, the trains came less and less frequently. The less we feed those trains, the less we ride on those trains, they get kind of bored and they stop coming to your station and they go somewhere else. They find a new destination to go to. So do know that these trains do not come as often the further down this path that you travel. The more often you ride the other trains, the less often these ones come along. They only seem to come if you keep getting on them. Now, here's the thing. When that train comes into the station, you've got two choices, really, maybe three, but two main choices. You can either get on that train and think, this thought is a good idea. I'm going to ride this train to the final destination and I'm going to have a drink at the end of it because I believe there's some value in that. Or you can pause for a moment and you can take a minute. You can then make a choice. Now, that choice may still be that you get on that train and start the journey. Or it might be that actually you're going to take a seat on the platform and you're going to wait for a different train to come along. You're going to perhaps go and meditate. You might want to leave the station altogether and go and do some gardening or read a book or whatever works for you, whatever lights you up. Now, I want you to really think about mapping out the journey from the thought about having a drink, from the craving through to the final destination, because each of those steps that you would write down there, and there's normally anything between 15 and 30 steps, consider them like stations on the journey. They are going to all be points where you can get off of the train, where you can pause, where you can take a moment, where you can make a choice. And don't forget, you can make a choice at any point on this journey. But if you map them out, it feels like there's sections, there's phases that you're going through where you can actively pause, you can stop, you can make a choice. Each one is like a crossroads. It's an opportunity to get off. The door's open, you can leave. So the way I mapped this out for myself was the first point, of course, the first stop is having a thought about drinking. I'm having a strong craving right now. I acknowledge that. There's some other videos on my YouTube channel that share how to deal with those uncomfortable thoughts. If you pause and take a moment and think, actually, I want to deal with this rather than get on the train and travel towards the final destination. Kind of ironic it's the final destination because there's a film called Final Destination where death stalks everybody, but that's just a coincidence, but it's kind of ironic, I guess. So the next step, the next stop on the train journey would be that you've then got to actually do something. You've got to get up out of your seat. Now, I'm assuming there's either no alcohol in the house or there's alcohol in another room in the house, but it can be different situations. And you may need to write out two lists, two train journeys, one for getting alcohol if it's in the house, one for going to the store if you need to get alcohol. For the purpose of this, I'm going to assume there's no alcohol in the house and you're going to the store. So the second step is you've got to get your butt up and you've got to put your shoes on. You've got to perhaps get your car keys, put your coat on if it's a cold day, and leave the house. That's the next station. That's an opportunity to pause, to make a choice. And then you're going to make another choice right there. Do you choose to stop and go and use a tactic, one of the ones from my channel, or do you choose to continue to the next station, which would be getting in the car, or if you're walking, continuing your walk to the store, and then reversing your car off the driveway if you're driving and starting to head to the store. So there's the next stop, another opportunity to make a choice, another chance to maybe pull the car over, to meditate for a moment if you stop. Don't do that while you're driving. To turn the car around and head back home and take a moment, do some visualization, get your journal out. One of the huge number of tools that we can use when these things come up, rather than just staying on the train and running with the thought, because it is just a thought. It's just a transient, empty thought. But because it's about alcohol, it stands out. It's loud, it's noisy, but it's only like that right at the start. You've got to understand this. They get weaker and weaker and weaker to a point where they hardly ever come anymore. And then keep mapping those stations through on your own bespoke train journey line, your line from thought, craving through to the final destination of taking a drink. So just very briefly, you don't need me to do the whole thing. You know, you've driven, you've parked the car, you've got out of the car, you've walked to the store, you've walked through the door, you've picked a basket up, you've looked at the alcohol, you've made a decision to take a bottle off the shelf to put it into your basket or your trolley. Then you've got to walk to the checkout, pay. You've got to get your debit card out or cash out of your pocket. You've got to pay for it. You then got to leave the store, get back into your car, drive back home or walk home. You get the point. There's so many stops on this journey where you can pause. Even if you bought the alcohol, you can still pause and make a choice, and you could drop it in the trash can if you wanted to do that. You don't have to go all the way to the final destination. And when you've heard this, believe me, you cannot unlearn it. And when you next find yourself on that train, you will be thinking of this, and you will be asking yourself which station you're going to get off at. And I really would want you to put a comment here and tell me where you got off, or if you went to the final destination. Even if you had this in your mind, it will strengthen you for next time around. And maybe next time you won't go the whole way to the final destination. And by the way, do not beat yourself up if you do go all the way to the final destination. There's no judgment. It's not a crime. It's part of the learning process. You know, it doesn't happen immediately for everyone the first time. We have to practice at these things. There's a certain level of skill involved, which only comes through a learning experience. So be kind on yourself with that. So you've mapped out the whole journey, and now you're back home. There's still a few more stations to go through. You've still got to take that bottle out of the bag, open the lid, get out a glass, unless you're going to drink right from the bottle, which I assume you won't because we're all civilized around here. And then you've got to pour the drink. You've got to lift the glass, maybe take a sniff, and then you've got to put it to your lips and actually put the liquid in your mouth. You see what I mean? There's around 30 or so stages, 30 or so stations where you could exit that train just to pause for a minute. You might just pause, and your decision might be to continue on the journey. But believe me, the more mindful you are of this, the stronger that it's going to become, and the more likely you are to get off of the train rather than to keep going and going through to the final destination. Give it a try. It works so much better when you actually map out the steps. It makes you really mindful of it. It brings your awareness to using that as a strategy, and it kind of keeps it front of mind when you start to go on that journey from having a craving to actually going to take a drink. Because cravings are one thing, we can sit with them, but we want to stop them in their tracks. And this is how we do it. We pause, we take a moment, we deploy one of the many, many tactics. You'll find so many on my channel here. Meditation, disruption. There's just so many. I won't go into all of them. But by doing this, you become really, really mindful. And it will, if you work on yourself with this, it will stop you in your tracks. And I make no apology for using the word tracks with trains. I hope you picked up on that. And I make no apology for repeating myself around it either, because repetition is what's going to drum this home. This is the sort of thing that is going to get you really mindful, really connected and in tune with yourself. You're going to be thinking of this next time you go on that journey. And believe me, if you stick with it, you map that journey out and make your own bespoke train line, this is going to serve you so well in terms of stopping the cravings, bringing them to a complete halt, and not getting you from a place where you've thought about drinking, you've had a craving, and you end up taking a drink, when actually what you want to do is quit, be free from alcohol, and totally happy. So I hope that helps you. Let me know if it does. As I say, I'd love for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to be part of my community if you find that my videos help you. And let me know how you get on. I really hope that one's going to work for you.